It's a tough subject. The podcast was normally with Dennis Gillan. I'm here, and Jessica Seal. Jessica's busy, but we're bringing back a guest that was a surprise guest a couple of seasons ago, maybe 2 seasons ago. But it was one of our most popular episodes to date. We decided one day to bring our producer on because under the guise of grief is grief, and he had an incredible story of love found, love lost, love found again.
That's right.
And then love lost again. And yeah, and there we are. So Tim, that's my introduction to you. Tim Cicciarelli, my producer. Briefly, we both wanted you to come back because sometimes you do a podcast and I go, I wonder whatever happened to that guy. You know, where is he now? So this is one of those where is he now podcasts, and where is he now on his grief journey? So did you have any anniversaries come up, Tim? Tell us the brief background, bring everybody up to speed, and then I think there was an anniversary or something.
There was. So, for those that might not have seen that episode, and thank you for inviting me to be on. I tell you, I'm in the background recording and editing and distributing these podcasts, and what a blessing you and Jessica have been to me personally as your producer with It's a Tough Subject, because, boy, I remember when we were knocking around the idea of doing this podcast, and you found me, and we were trying to come up with a name for the podcast because you are the executive director of Half a Sorrow Foundation, and we talk about that at length. And there it is. See, and so
I got my shirt on. Yeah.
And so when you came up, and I think you had a friend or a colleague say, it's a tough subject, and you went, "That's it." And
exactly,
this podcast primarily is about suicide prevention, suicide loss, and all of the ways that you and Jessica are advocates for that. And then this is the 50th episode, by the way, season 5.
Whoa!
And right, so this is kind of neat that this has survived the test of time. And a lot of podcasts don't make it past season 1 and 2, and here we are at season 5, episode
Crazy.
50. And the podcast, as your producer and the one who is lucky enough to record you and listen to you and Jessica, and then edit it, so I really get to know what because I listened to it and edited it again. I have benefited with my grief, which is a different type of grief. So for those who weren't with us for that last episode that you were kind enough to invite me on, a quick get
synopsis.
You up to speed. Yeah. So I lost my wife, Amy, on May 26, 2025. So last year. So roughly 14 months ago from right about now. And, I remember when that awful day came that we knew was coming, thought it would be later, because Amy battled breast cancer, and boy, she was a tough cookie.
Yeah.
And we believed that she was going to be with us for a long time, that she was going to go against the odds. And she didn't. And it caught up with her about 4.5 years after she was diagnosed for the second time with breast cancer. And so just again, Amy and I dated 30 plus years ago while she was attending the University of Georgia. I was working at a radio station near Athens, Georgia. We met at a honky-tonk, and I drive by that honky-tonk fairly regularly still, and I glance over there, and I'm so blessed for what took place in that building. But, Amy was in college. We dated just like 6-7 months, but there was something about that girl that embedded in my soul. And she married someone else down the road. I married someone else. We had children with different people. And then after our divorces, Facebook, I found a photo of Amy while I was cleaning out some old radio memorabilia. And there was a photo of me and Amy backstage at a Trisha Yearwood concert. And I said, I wonder what Amy's up to. So I went to Facebook and found her. And there's a lot more to that story. If you want to hear it, you can go back and listen to that episode.
Back to the original episode.
Yeah.
That was incredible.
And we hit it off. And gosh, several months later, close to a year later, I ended up moving where she was in Denver. I was in Los Angeles at the time, and we moved in together. And then we ultimately got married on July 8th, 2023. So that's the anniversary you mentioned. I just passed our...
That was it, the wedding anniversary. Yeah.
Yeah. And we weren't married long. We were together, close to 5 years, but she was my person. And so the grief is immense. And You know, I've actually had some people say, well, you knew what you were getting into, or, well, you weren't with her that long. And I can't believe those words came out of people's mouths. It's amazing what people tell you when you're grieving and trying to make you feel
They don't
better.
know what to say. What is that? There's a saying that goes, you may not know the right thing to say, but there is a wrong thing to say.
Yeah, so just don't say anything.
Don't say anything, yeah.
But I know, but you know what? I want to give those people grace because
you have to.
they care, right? And they're trying to find a way to comfort me and so I look at that. I look at the genesis of their motivation, and that's what it is.
Oh,
That's
you're
really
a good
comfortable.
Southern boy. Bless their hearts.
I'm from Los Angeles, but I've lived here a long time.
You want to punch him in the throat.
Dude.
Bless their heart. Whack.
So that kind of caught you up to speed again for more of mine and Amy's story, and we felt it was a really good one. Matter of fact, Amy wanted us to write a movie about our story called Circle Back. And believe it or not, I mean, that's something that I'm still kind of considering.
Oh,
And
yeah.
whether something happens with it or not, it's something that I would like to write. But
Aging Nicholas Sparks.
yeah, it's like that. And so, you know, the last year, 14 months, right? That's not a long time at all.
No,
at
the
all.
grief journey.
It is. But listening and becoming friends with you and Jessica and listening and editing and distributing this podcast has helped me. I have not sought therapy. I've not sought therapy at all, but I get it through the two of you. I should be writing you a check instead of you writing me one for the podcast.
That'd be nice.
We'll discuss that.
Offline.
Honestly, I mean, it really has helped me. And that's what I want to say at the beginning of this episode. So for those that found this podcast because you were searching for grief therapy or whatever it could be, 50 episodes to binge and learn from Jessica and Dennis. And before we go into my grief journey, what I have to say about this podcast, and I marvel at yours and Jessica's chemistry because it's a tough subject. Yet you and Jessica find this way to insert humor at the appropriate time. You laugh a lot. There's chemistry there because you have a shared experience. And there's this, I don't know, what you and Jessica have. I've been in radio a long time, and so I can hear chemistry, and that's what the two of you have. So it's not like it is a tough subject, and we're not crying for 30 minutes all the time. It's a range of emotion. So for those that just found this podcast, give it a go. I think you'll find some value in it.
And typically how the podcast runs for the folks that just joined us and for this episode, Tim, you have a lot of followers. There may be people coming in to see this thing. It's about grief. But Jessica lost her father to suicide. I lost two brothers. And the circles, we just ran into each other. Someone said, you need to talk to this girl, Jessica. And someone told Jessica, you need to find this guy, Dennis Gillan. So one day we're in a meeting together. And I said, someone told me to find you. And we should do it. And then we decided to do the podcast. And here's what happens on the podcast. All three of us are on screen. And then Tim goes, see ya. And he fades to black. He's in the background.
You don't want to see me. I'm just
That's
recording.
you. And then, you got a face made for radio. No, he fades away. He goes away. And then he comes back at the end and we wrap it up. And you've been extremely complimentary about the chemistry part with Jessica and I. And it's there because we do little or no show prep. We do a lot of, behind the scenes, but I said, Jess, what are we talking about today? And boom, off we go. And next thing you know, it's 35 minutes. But then you come back on and I could tell some of these episodes hit you.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting about this dynamic is, Amy and I were living in Denver when you and I connected through a platform when you were just looking for a podcast producer. And then I ended up moving. Amy and I moved here, 2 years ago, almost to the day at the time of this recording, July 30th, 2026. But we moved here 2 years ago to live on her parents' farm. We were building a home on her parents' property, and that's part of my grief journey as well because we had the plans made. We were ready to break ground. We designed it. Her parents are builders, and her brother's a builder. We were going to build this beautiful custom home, and then her health took a turn. And so I'm very close to her mom and dad. I bought a house very close to them. And we have dinner every Thursday night and every Sunday night. And we've been doing that for the last year. And that has helped me in my grief journey. So that's a long setup. And the point is I'm closer to you now. You're in South Carolina and I'm here. And so when this podcast started, Amy was battling cancer, but she was fine. And throughout the entire 5 seasons, her health declined. She passed away, and I've been grieving. And here we are, episode 50. So you've been there for that entire journey.
Yeah.
And so you and Jessica hold a deep place in my heart, and I appreciate all that you have done for me as your producer, but personally. But that's a long setup to this grief journey. But we wanted to give people an idea of, what is this grief journey? You said something, you've said it many times, Dennis, on the podcast, that sometimes people play the grief Olympics. Well, I lost a brother, I lost a dad, you lost a wife. Which one is worse? Which one? They're all different, but they're not. Loss is loss, grief is grief. And when Jessica lost her sweet puppy, she lost her dog, and that grief is real.
Oh, absolutely.
And it should not be discounted because it's not a human. And so that has helped me dive in headfirst into my grief. I think the way that I've handled it, you asked me off air before we started recording, so how are you doing mentally? I said, why don't we just save it for the podcast?
All right, so how you doing mentally? Is that my cue?
That's your cue. There it is. I'm a mess, Dennis. So no, conversely, I think I'm doing really well. And part of it is because of this podcast. The other part of it is because the first time I really experienced grief was when I lost my mother in 2005. She battled ovarian cancer, and they gave her just months to live, and she lived 6 years because she was tough. And Amy was a lot like my mom. She was tough. She had a lot to live for. So when Mom passed away, I just lost my job at a radio station where I was for a long time here in this market where I'm at right now because the station sold. Was preparing to sell. And so I lost my job. I was building up my company. I had 2 boys. My wife at the time wasn't working. And then my mother passes away 3 weeks after I lost the job, and I was just busy.
Whoa.
So I never really embraced the grief with my mom. It was there. It was real, and I still feel it. But that's how I thought grief was. I'm like, okay, well, that's what it's going to be.
No, you got to pay attention to it.
Yeah.
And you didn't pay much attention to it.
I buried it. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah. And so as I was anticipating Amy leaving, passing away, I just kind of thought it was going to be like that. It was nothing like that to me. It was nothing like that. It leveled me. It floored me. And losing a spouse is different. It's not the grief Olympics, which one's harder, how is it easier? But not only do you lose did I lose the love of my life? But now I have this life where I bought a house. I'm alone all the time, unless I'm at the radio station where I currently work and run my podcast network. And so there's that loneliness component as well.
Oh, yeah.
But the loneliness, dare I say, helped me dive headfirst into the grief. I mean, I swam through it. And I'll tell you what.
Well, you weren't distracted then. Yeah,
no, you're right.
You gave grief your full attention.
Yeah, my boys are grown. They've gone through college. They have their careers. I have my company that I run in the evenings and on some mornings like today. And I have this job at a radio station that I just adore. Adore being back on the radio here in North Georgia with this family-owned company. And that was a component that, I was new at the radio station, maybe a month, and Amy passes away. And so here's how my grief journey kind of began. Diving headfirst and feeling all the feels. So I work at a country radio station. I'm making that point because Amy and I loved country music. So when we were dating, we would send songs to each other. And one song she would send me while she was living in Colorado and I was living in Los Angeles. And when I would fly up to see her, she would send me a song from George Strait called Run. Run to Me.
Oof.
And sorry, that hit, right? See, and that's what happened.
Yeah.
And so the reason I bring that up is every Monday, Amy passed away on a Monday at 4:58. Monday, May 26th at 4:58 is when she took her last breath. So every Monday since then, I play that song.
Oh, don't make me cry, Tim. Come on.
So I do. I close the door to the studio. I put Run on, and then I bawl. I look at photos of her. I watch videos of her. And
then you got to come back on the mic.
And then boom, it's 5 o'clock, and it's the ride home, and it's up tempo, and fun, and I got to shake it off and get into personality mode. But that's my way of memorializing her, and through the memorializing of Amy, that's how I grieve her. And so, In addition to that song, I had to go back to work a week afterwards. I was brand new.
Oh, yeah.
And so there I am. We play the radio station all day. I'm the digital marketing director as well as the on-air personality. So I'm there all day, and we listen to the music all day. And country music is just dripping with songs about
Sentimental loss.
loss.
Oh, yeah.
You got
It's
Garth Brooks with The Dance. You've got Luke Bryan, Drink a Beer, Carrie Underwood, I'll See You Again. You've got...
And your format's old time country, right? Like it's
we're
classic.
90s, the music that made country great. 99.3 WCO, and there's a little plug for my radio station. You can stream it no matter where you are in the country. I'm on 3 to 7. Thank you for the plug, Dennis.
No, I hear you when I go down to the southern part of my territory. And one time I was driving through Atlanta, I said, let me see if Tim's on. And I hear you, and the songs are raw, and
Country.
it hits you right in the feels.
3 chords and the truth, buddy. That's what country music is. And so we play music mostly from the 90s and early 2000s and some of the 80s. So those songs, all those hits, and that's what I love about country music is it is about real life. And I was living it and listening to those songs. So I have these 2 monitors at work, and when those songs would come on over the speaker, I'd kind of dip down and cry so no one could see me, and I just couldn't escape it. But see, that was more of a blessing than a curse because it forced me to feel it,
Confront it.
and confront it. And unlike how I grieved my mom, so adding to that, what I decided to do every night, I make a video every year called My Second of the Day. So I film a second of every day of my life. And then at the end of the year, I pick songs that were reflective of that year, lyrically or just musically. And so I filmed Amy a lot because she was my girl. She was beautiful and she was fun. And I filmed her, and she'd be like, there he is again with the camera. And I filmed her, and I'm so glad I did, not just for that video that I produce at the end of each year, but now how I grieve her is by remembering her. And so every single night as I'm going to sleep, I have an iPhone, so I go into the photos and I just type the date in search, that date. And it has every photo or video that I've taken on that date. And more often than not, there's photos or videos of Amy for all the years that we were together, the last years of her life. And so I relive them. I watch those videos in their entirety. I look at the photos. And I've been doing that now for 14 months. And I noticed, at the very beginning, at least the first 10 months to a year, I would cry every night. I'd look at those things, and I longed for her, and I missed her. And I'm noticing now that, and this is where some of the healing is happening. You hear the term moving on. I don't like that term at all because it feels like I'm leaving Amy in the background, on the trail behind me, and I'm moving on, and I can't move on. I will never move on. But I was talking to a really, really great friend of mine, and she was saying, you can never move on. It's like you're healing on. And that really resonated with me.
That's a good one. I'm stealing that. Healing on.
Take it. Yeah, that could be the title of this episode. It's healing on. And that's what I feel like I've been doing. And so now this is the part where I feel a shift. I'm still sad. I still miss her. But now, more often than not, I'll still cry. But now I find myself smiling at those memories. Glad they happened.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not where I was. I was pissed. Angry, sad, ripped off, and I still feel that way. But the scales they've kind of tipped the other way. Where I'm, here I'm quoting Dr. Seuss, but don't be sad it's over. Be glad it happened.
Exactly.
I am sad it's over, but now
super glad it happened.
I'm really glad it happened.
Yeah.
So that's where I feel like I'm healing on as opposed to just moving on, and so. I see these photos and these videos, and I smile and I remember, and I'm like, that's healing, I think.
You just described this journey, and we just trained these folks to do some suicide loss meetings and all this stuff. And somebody put up on the screen a graphic of the grief journey, and it's supposed to be it's like a U shape. You start here, you go down, and you come back up. But the real journey, the other graphic is, here's the journey, and it has these squiggly lines all over the place.
Yes.
And it's going back and forth, up, down, and back to square one. I'm back, I'm doing better. And everyone, when we put that up, everyone in the room said, oh, yeah, that's it. Because these are people that have a loss, and everybody who's listening to our podcast has a loss of some sorts or grief, and that's the journey. It's like a big ball of yarn knotted up. There's no linear path.
No, there's no linear
That's what you
path,
explained,
not
Tim.
a perfect graph. And you know, listen, I'm only 14 months in. There's going to be people listening going, yeah, talk to me in 5 years, Tim. And I'm with you. Like I just feel like I've taken a turn because that was me the first year, and it is every now and then. I'm waiting for another shoe to drop, and I know things are going to happen. And it's not always just the anniversaries and the birthdays; those are big,
but they hit hard.
Everyday things, you know. And I think the way that I'm healing on is by trying to find every possible way to memorialize her. For instance, you know, on her birthday, you know, I have all these photos and videos. I had a video production company, and I had to put a video together. So I picked songs, and I did a video on her birthday, her first birthday, where she wasn't here, on December 20th of 2025. And in the process of putting those videos together and going through the photos and putting it to music, there's something about photos, videos to music that really evokes emotion. And so that's helped me.
Music has a way of doing that, yeah.
No question. And then, you know, that visual component and that audible component melded together really extracts it. And so when she passed away, 2 days after she passed away, I was up all night going through all the photos for a video to show at her funeral where you were. And I go back and listen to that other episode where I was on. And boy, I tell you, Dennis, when I was walking out of the church and I looked to my right and there you were, I will never forget that. What an act of love for you to drive down from Greenville, South Carolina to do that. And that meant a lot to me.
I'm gonna send you the bill for the mileage and the gas.
I got you, buddy, and I'll multiply it.
IRS pays 57 cents or something.
Dude, more than that now.
I want to go back to healing on though. I'm going to steal that because for years, you know, in the suicide prevention world, any grief world, you say people will come over. Yeah, when do you get over it? Yeah, you never get over it. And then for a while, I was saying, you know, you got to get through it. And I lost my brother. Matt had an anniversary this month, July. It's a crappy ass month. I had an anniversary, and it's 32 years. And finally, I heard somebody else talk about it. They said, you don't get over it. You don't get through it. And that's going to be a shocker for some people. It's a shocker for me. He goes, you learn to walk with it.
With it. Yeah.
And I'm like, son of a gun. I have to change my whole routine now when I speak because that's it. Because I am not over my brothers. I'm not through it. There's no way. No. I'm going to Ireland and I'm doing some ancestry stuff. And I got to tell these old aunts and uncles, I had two brothers that are no longer with us.
Aunts and uncles you've never seen because that's the homeland for the Gillans.
Yeah, it's the mothership there, and you know, but I'm sure they have stories too.
Yeah,
you know, Dennis, you have an uncle you don't know about. You know, it just happens. But that's the healing on, and you know, managing, not even managing, figuring out a way to walk with it because it ain't going away.
One time, and you're right. Going through it, you know, Instagram algorithm figured me out pretty quickly, and I don't hate it actually. I'm one of those. Well, I'm a marketer, so I like it, but like it exposes you what you're interested in or what you need, and oftentimes what you don't need. We talk about that a lot on the podcast.
Oh yeah,
with the political, you know, landscape that we've been dealing with for quite some time now. But you know the Instagram algorithm knows that I'm grieving Amy because I guess I clicked on something and I really don't hate it because that's almost you know, you got to consider the source. But I did see this grief counselor one time say, and I think I brought this up in the previous episode, but it, you know, pulled up a box and said, okay, this is your grief. Guess what? Good news, bad news. The bad news is it's not going anywhere. This is living with it, right? This is going to always be here. This is your life right now. He said, here's how you deal with it. And there was this clear box, so the bigger clear box, and they put that box in there that represented grief. And so you got to make your life bigger, and the grief's going to be there. You're going to walk with it. And here I am just 14 months in, and I think about that a lot. And I think about a lot of what you and Jessica said and how you've gone through this over the last 30 plus years. And so that's helped me. And so the way I decided to put that into practice was by really finding ways to memorialize Amy and not just bury my head in the sand or, you know, put blinders on. And so there are a few things that I did that are a constant reminder. And on the 1 year anniversary of her passing, May 26, a couple of months ago, I bought 2 trees that reflected her. Amy wanted everybody at our wedding to wear a touch of pink. So I bought a tree that blooms pink. And then I always loved the way Amy looked in burgundy. She had a lot of burgundy. She had burgundy scrubs. She had a burgundy shirt she wore all the time. So I've got a tree that has burgundy leaves. And so I bought these trees and I put them, it was important to me that I put them in the ground on that day. And they're in my backyard. And
wow.
So I'm really grateful that Amy decided to be cremated. Everybody has their different reasons for how they want it, and they should all be respected, in my opinion. And so she decided to be cremated, and I'm grateful for that because I plan on taking her ashes to places that were important to her and important to us in our relationship and spreading her ashes there. And I have more on that coming up in a few moments. But I took some of Amy's ashes. I played our playlist while I was putting the tree in the ground and crying the whole time. My neighbors are looking at me like I'm new here, and they're like, "What's he doing back there?" And
this guy really hates planting trees. He's crying over there. He hates digging holes.
I did hate digging the hole, but here's what I thought. I mean, the fact is, I mean, I'm 59 years old. I mean, that was a lot of work in this Georgia clay.
You know it.
And so
get the pickaxe.
Every scoop, all of the exertion, it was like I was doing it for her, and I just internalized all of that, and it was a beautiful thing to do. And then I put some of her ashes in there. I played the music. I put the tree in, and then one tree in particular. I mean, I'm really corny, but I put the mulch around the tree in the shape of a heart, and then that was on the day that she passed away. And then on our anniversary, I bought a pink crepe myrtle and put it in front of my house. And I put some of her ashes in there. Our anniversary was July 8th, just a few weeks ago. So I've got 3 trees planted. When I know her ashes are out there, some of her ashes. And then that was big. And then shortly after that, there's a group that Amy and I really loved that provided the soundtrack for almost the entire time I was with her. And the group is called Lord Huron. And I use their music in some of my seconds of the day. And interestingly, their last tour, I bought tickets for Amy and I to go see Lord Huron in Atlanta last year, but of course she passed away before the show. And then their music is kind of thematic. They're not just a rock band. Their shows they're a theme. There's
a rock opera.
Kinda. There's interpretive dance, and wouldn't you know it, their theme was kind of grief. And there was this man and this woman dancing, and the woman throughout the show, and the woman passes away, and she's on a screen, and he's trying to find her, and then she comes back, and I am weeping like audibly in Atlanta last year, and when I saw them, and so then I went again shortly after Amy's anniversary. It was in June of this year, and we used to go see that band Lord Huron at Red Rocks. In Colorado.
Colorado.
Amazing amphitheater.
It's a bucket list item for me.
It is a bucket list, and make sure you do it. It's a religious experience, and that's not hyperbole or an exaggeration, especially with this band. So I went back to Colorado, and I saw Amy's kids, my bonus kids, all 3 of them, and that was tough. I lost. I didn't lose them, but Amy, Peyton lived with us, and I love those kids like they're mine. And Peyton had to go back and live with her father. So I kind of lost her too. And so I went back to Colorado and drove by our old house, went to a couple of the old restaurants. And Amy had this tree that she really loved in City Park in Denver. And all the trees are numbered there. So she loved this tree. Matter of fact, the first time I flew up to Denver, she took me to that tree that she's loved for years, and we had a picnic under that tree. So we would.
Did they map them out, number them, and all that good stuff?
They do, yeah. And so I went to her tree. It was my first time going back there since she passed, and I have this photo of her that I adore, of her sitting between these roots at the base of the tree, this big, huge tree. And she's just got the sweetest smile on her face and sunglasses, her face looking up to the sun. On this video, I'll show it. I'll cut to, you're probably looking at it right now in the video.
Insert that into this podcast. I want to see it.
And that photo actually was taken on a tripod, and I'm in the photo, but I cropped me out. And it's her in this little cradle of the roots, and it's my favorite photo of her. So I went back to that same spot where she was sitting in that cradle with her, and I found a stick, and I dug as deep as I could, and I probably broke a lot doing this, but I put some of her ashes in there, and then I took some more sticks and I put an A on top of it. And what I love about that is that tree, you can almost see through City Park to where Peyton's high school is. And so if
That's
Peyton
within
wants
view of-
to, she can come over there and
See
know
that tree.
and then I took more of her ashes to where we got married in Denver, and there was a tree kind of overlooking at this another city park, and I did the same. I dug a hole, and I put her ashes in there, and that's close to where her daughter Abby and her son Hank live. So it's not a conventional burial, but it's special, and that's what I love about the fact that she had. She was cremated, that I can honor her that way, and those trees will be there a long time, and so
Wow.
so will her ashes. So.
See, you reminded me of a story. A couple of years ago, there was a young man that was lost by suicide, and he was cremated, and it became a documentary. And his mom put on Facebook, "I have my son's ashes, and does somebody want to take him and put him in special places?" And she crowdsourced like a burial, and then people said yes, and all they had to do was send her photos and all this stuff. So her son, in his remains, went all over the globe.
Spectacular.
Yeah, and these people rallied and helping this grieving mother and sent her back photos of where he is.
That's part of her grief journey. And how he was so
Everybody grieves differently, and whatever works for you, as long as it's healthy.
well, and that's what I don't drink, and there's no other. But there are times when I'm like, gosh, I want to get rid of this pain. I never chose that path because I see what could happen there. And when you feel that pain as often as I felt it, which was every waking moment.
Yeah, you want to numb it, but what happens? You numb all your emotions. You can't selectively numb. I'm going to drink till I forget Amy. You're going to drink to forget everything. Yeah, you're going to forget joy. I'm sober 32 years. Awesome. I feel everything.
Wow, congratulations.
I had a moment the other day. I was crying on the way to the training the other day. This woman, you just feel everything. And for some reason, sobriety for me has like all my senses are aware. I go to a gas station to buy water for this meeting I'm doing. And I should have got the water the day before, but of course it's the morning of, last minute. I always wait to the last minute. You know why? Then it only takes a minute. No. I'm in a gas station, and I just noticed this woman goes to the ATM, and I'm buying my water, looking where the water is, and then I notice the card comes out and the receipt comes out. No money comes out. And I just make a note, like I was a broke college student. I remember putting the card in and saying, "You have $0.00. Good luck this week.
Yeah.
Get a job, you bum." That's what it would come out and say, "Get a job, you bum. Stop asking your parents for money." And so I grabbed my water, I paid, and when I came out, she was still sitting in her car. And I went over there. I only had like $7 on me. I never carried cash. I wish I did.
I know.
We're cashless society. I had $7 on. She was pulling out, and I kind of hemmed and hawed, like, I don't, you get these signals and you fight them.
Yeah.
Like, give her the money you got. No, I'm not doing that. It's stupid. So she comes around, and I stop her car, and I come around, and she gets out. And I thought she was going to roll down the window. Maybe her window was broken. She gets out, and I said, "This is all I have." And she goes, "I don't need it." I said, "Listen, I'm not telling you to take it. All I know is God told me to give it to you. That's all I got." And she reluctantly took it, $7. I don't know if we could buy her gas or a sandwich. I don't know where she's going. And I got in my car and just cried.
Yeah.
And it's sobriety because you feel everything. And the super downside to that is you feel other people's pain.
You have empathy.
Empathy.
Yeah.
But the other part of that is you feel extreme joy. When something good happens,
gift,
you are jacked up.
Connection is made, right? Is when you feel, and you are. I mean, folks, if you just found this podcast, go back and listen, because how you have turned your life around and turned your misery into your mission, right? And how others have, Dennis, have planted shade trees of which you will never sit under. And what a blessing you and Jessica have been to so many people that you don't even know, through this podcast or everything else that you're doing with advocacy and all the other organizations you're involved with.
When you find, I just had come to this realization, there's a thing called flow. I ignored this mission for years. Let's be honest. I didn't talk about my brothers for 16 long years.
Wow.
I did not confront my grief. Put it in that box. and I wanted to burn that box. I wasn't going to put it in a bigger box. I'm like, that's it. And then when I came at it, and a lot of things were stripped away from me, and God said, I kind of want you to do this. I'm like, I don't want to do that. Who wants to be a grief guy? You know, like
When
Tim,
you're
right?
in elementary school, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah, I want to do suicide intervention. Okay, let's call the principal. That kid's got to go. Right? Yeah. Little Johnny, you're going down to see the counselor. But it happened, and it's in the flow of sorts.
God
But
it
it's
did.
it's been a blessed mission, and this podcast has been blessed. Tim, you coming into our life, God has put these wonderful people in front of me. You and I met on like an online, what was it, Uptick or something?
Upwork, yeah. Like I
I
was.
don't even know where it was.
Yeah, it was Upwork. I got a little notification. Hey, somebody wants to produce a podcast. And I reached out. And the beginning, I think you were talking to 3 or 4 people, and I'm grateful you chose me.
Yeah, there were a couple that came back, and then crazy thing is, you moved to my side of the country.
Yeah.
At first, we were going to deal with time zones and all that stuff, and then like I'm moving to Georgia. I'm like, I'm your neighbor.
Yeah, you're right up 85. You're right,
Dude. By the way, you probably get some really cool because of back to the joy part. Your grief journey is so unique, but then you work at this radio station that allows you to go do some really cool stuff. Are you feeling that as well?
100%. Dennis, I wrote a blog about it. We started this new Substack blog for all of the on-air personalities to write about anything, because radio's it's not a dying medium like people think it is. It's just changing, and it's different, and the audience is changing. And as a digital marketing director at the station and an on-air personality, we are trying to create new revenue streams for the radio station, and that have to do with digital, but also ways to connect with our audience through social and this blog. So when we're on the air, I don't do the morning show anymore, but I'm in the afternoon, so I don't talk a long time. But when I talk, it's challenging to connect with the audience when you're by yourself, because I'm just announcing, songs, letting people know what's going on in the community and with country music and everything else, and try to be a little bit funny. But when we're able to talk about our lives and without it sounding self-serving, but just letting people know, hey, we're like you, and we're kind of this club in this community. We get to do things with these people that, feel like they know us because they hear us on the daily.
Yeah.
And then we get to meet them. And for me, that is such a joy. It is such a joy when someone comes up and says, hey, listen, you keep me company on my ride home every day. It means so much to me. But we created this idea of writing a blog so that the audience can get to know a little bit more about us beyond the 90 seconds, 2 minutes that we talk every day. So I wrote a blog called, and if it's okay, I'll put a link in the episode notes to it. It's called Walking Hand in Hand with Grief and Gratitude. Because that's what I've done the last year.
And gratitude.
Yes,
Okay.
and that's what I've done the last year. I've walked hand in hand with grief and gratitude. Now, you would think, how can you be grateful while you're going through grief? Grateful for so many things, for the love from you and Jessica, from my family and friends, and now people that are kind of strangers. When they at the radio station, when they posted that, pray for Tim Cicciarelli. He's new here at this radio station, but his wife Amy passed away. We had over 100,000 likes on that, and those aren't just little thumbs up or hearts. That touched me, and I responded.
Oh,
to
yeah.
it. This is the relationship that we have with our audience. So when you say I get to do cool stuff, yeah, I get to go backstage in cool concerts. I go to the Grand Ole Opry and go backstage because of the relationships I have in country music, and I try to bring that to my audience. But I don't shy away from the grief, because that's something on the other side of the speakers, they're going through that too. Now, I don't want to be a bummer and talk about it all the time, but I wrote this blog to let these listeners, our friends on the other side of the speakers, know how much they have helped me truly this last year, walking hand in hand with grief and gratitude, because it is a relationship. And the same thing here with the podcast. It's the exact same thing, which is why I like it. It's long form. So this relationship with the audience is a real thing.
What is do you know the radio station's Substack handle? Substack is growing.
Yeah.
I have one. I think it's at dgillan12. I know it is.
Yeah.
Do you know the station's handle, or you'll put it in the show notes?
I'll put it in the show notes, but it's on our website at mycountry993.com. We call it the front porch. And the reason we call it the front porch is because sit on the front porch, grab a glass of sweet tea, and let's just sit here and spin a yarn together and get to know each other beyond just introducing records and telling you about concerts and things like that. So that's why we called it the front porch. And then each of us write about, various things going on in our lives or in the community. And so I wrote another one recently about going backstage at the Grand Ole Opry. I have a friend of mine, John Barry, who's several #1 songs, and he's a country singer, and he's a wonderful man. And so he and I reconnected after me being away from radio for 20 years, and he invited me back to the Grand Ole Opry 2 weeks ago because he was performing at the Opry. And I was sitting there with my mother-in-law and father-in-law, Mr. Glenn and Miss Jane, Amy's parents, and we were talking to John's manager at one of the doors of the beautiful dressing rooms they have there at the Grand Ole Opry. And I looked to my left, and I said, "Oh, my God, there's Garth Brooks." So
What?
So Garth came up, and I interviewed Garth 30 years ago at the Omni in Atlanta before he went on stage, kicked off that tour. So Garth walked over, and we, he didn't remember me, I'm sure, but I thanked him.
He said, "Tim, how'd that interview go?" Did you ever air that 30-year-old interview?
But he was amazing. He was kind and gave us time and spoke with reverence to my in-laws because they're older than us, and he took his hat off and he shook me. I love Garth. I know some folks have issues with Garth because of politics, and
man, but
he's a good guy. And if you ever want to see a good show, it's Garth Brooks. I'm telling you.
Well, you look at people, how they interact with total strangers. It tells you a lot. So here he was bopping down the hallway, runs into 3 people, yourself and your in-laws, and he's kinder than kind. I need more stories like that because we hear about celebrities. Yeah, no cameras, no social media kid behind him posting it.
And he sings the dance. And if you listen to the lyrics of the dance, had I known how it all would end, I might have missed the pain, but I would have missed the dance. And so that's Amy. As that one person said, well, you kind of knew what you were getting into because if you go back and listen to the old episode that I was on, 6 weeks after Amy and I started dating again, I flew up to Denver for her diagnosis that you now have stage 4 breast cancer. And I knew what I was getting into. I knew I was driving towards a cliff someday, but I knew I loved her. So I did it anyway. And thank God I did. And so with Garth, I just made that connection with him coming in and with Amy's parents the dance. Things that there are signs. I'm one of these people that believes in signs.
Absolutely.
I've got a quick story. Hopefully I'll make it.
God winks.
God winks. And so when my mother passed away, after Mom passed away, for some reason I started noticing more bluebirds. And I always felt that was Mom coming to comfort me, especially in times of anxiety. And I went through a lot of it after she passed away. And I told that story to Amy. And so when we got married, she surprised me by putting a little figurine of a bluebird in her bouquet.
Come on.
And so I have that bluebird on. I have a lot of the plants still that we got for Amy's funeral that I take care of. And the radio station sent me this beautiful plant with cardinals on it. And I thought that was a sign because, as Amy, we would talk about her possible death a lot. Not just right before, but almost the entire time. And I said, if you go before me, I would love for a cardinal to appear, to be, And so I have a great story. So I have that bluebird that Amy had in a bouquet up there next to a cardinal in Amy's room, I call it, where I have a lot of her photos and her stuff in there. And Dennis, one of those trees that I planted in the backyard, I put a bench there for me to sit with Amy.
Yeah, just reflect.
Yeah, and talk to her. I still talk to her. And so I have a hot tub on my deck. Amy and I used to love to go in the hot tub, and that was instead of watching TV, a lot of times we go in the hot tub and just talk about our day, and it's one of those little blow-up hot tubs you buy at Costco. So I have it, and it's on my deck. And Dennis, a bluebird was on the bench, on the top of the bench. I swear to you, a cardinal flew right next to it. And I pulled out my phone, and I'm trying to get it. And right as I go to film it, they both took off. And so I'm like...
It was not meant to be captured. It was meant for Tim.
And that was... I call it a coincidence? I don't.
No way. There's no way.
I don't.
Everyone knows that bluebirds hate redbirds. It's well known,
right?
That's it. East Coast, West Coast. There's a lot of rivalries. Boston versus the Yankees and Cardinals versus Bluebirds. Everybody knows it.
That's right. Not that
dogs,
day.
cats.
Yeah. redbirds, bluebirds, but they were in unison that day. And that I looked at that as a beautiful God wink, and maybe it was a sign from Amy, my mom, maybe not. I choose to believe it was. So.
Oh, no. You just say, we got you, Tim. We're here. We're in a good spot. We're in a good spot. We feel for you.
Did you have any signs with your brothers at all? Were you looking for them, or I know it was such a different type of experience when they left this earth, but
it was so traumatic that I didn't really, and I didn't deal with it too well. My older brother Mark, I did the numbing route. I did the alcohol. I was 20. The drinking age was 18. I went nuts.
Yeah.
If it was anything to alleviate my pain, I put it in me. Mostly alcohol, but there were drugs involved too. I tried that, and whatever. And then when Matt died, the sobriety. But I had a really good distraction shortly after Matthew died. It was July. It was July 18th, but really the 16th because they didn't find him to the 18th. It was the night he went out. So probably the 17th they went out because they went out drinking. So shortly after Matthew died, that September, that fall, we found out we're pregnant. And we struggled.
Yeah.
So you got a cardinal, I got a kid. No, it was such a positive distraction.
Hey, that's a positive distraction, though. That is
totally. And this kid's like, I'm going to consume all your time.
Yeah.
And like, please do, because I'm in my head and I need to get out of it.
That's not a God wink. That's a God shove, right?
Oh, it's unbelievable. Martin showed up in April of the 95, April 95. Mm-hmm. And then, after years of trying that, we had a little trouble. And then he shows up. And then 2 years later, I get Brendan. So I have Martin and Brendan. And I went into that mode. I went to dad mode. And never really dealt with the grief. Never really talked about it until about 16 years later, someone asked me to speak at a fundraiser. And, you feel compelled to do something. Like you're sharing. There's a widow out there that needs to hear Tim's story right now, whether you know it or not. You're planting a shade tree you're not going to sit under. But somewhere along the line, you got to the point where it's like the misery becomes my mission. It's like, you know what, that really sucked. How could I help some other family not go through that? Because it really, really sucked.
I said earlier about the shade trees of which you'll never sit under. I don't know. I didn't make that up. I heard that a long time ago.
Yeah.
It stuck with me. I'm like, wow, that's something that we want to do, right? To help other people. But Dennis, with what you do outside of this podcast, and let's talk about that too, is what you do isn't just plant a shade tree. This saves lives.
We hope.
Well,
we know. Well, there's one or two have come forward and said, one time I was at a construction meeting and I was in line after I spoke. And this guy comes up to me and he goes, I'm going to cry thinking about this, but he just says, hey, I really appreciated your talk. I said, well, you guys were a really good audience. You always throw it back, like it's not about me. You guys were really good. You were with me the whole time, and I really appreciate that. And I said something like, and I mean this too, I said, if one person hears the story, then it's worth it. And as we're online with our plates in our hand, he goes, well, you got your one today.
Wow. What a gift. Wow.
And I told the guy, I said, dude, don't make me cry in the lunch line. I'm like on the edge all the time.
That is great.
I can either laugh hard or I can cry hard. Pick one. Yeah. And I was like, whoa. Well, so I just said, thank you for sharing that.
See,
I'm glad you're still here.
And that's this part of, and the podcast is just one component. Why don't you tell us about the other things that you do? Because there's a relatively new venture that you're
well, into. I'm a singer. I'm a dancer.
No links in the episode notes to those videos.
I do no. There's other things we do. The Camo Hat Club behind me, trying to get men together. There's a picture of my brothers, and they're up there. You can see if you're online. Camo Hat Club we do.
Those in the video as well. Send them to me. So
we'll do. I'll send you the picture of the boys. The one thing that's really got my attention lately is called Lost Teams, where we go local outreach to survivors of suicide. We started the first one in South Carolina, where we actually visit, call, and contact the people that just lost a loved one to suicide. Like a guy lost his son, I don't want to talk about too much details, lost a person to suicide on a Friday. We were there on Saturday.
And I know here, listening to you and Jessica for the last 49 episodes, the value of that immediate response. And here I was talking earlier about people might possibly say the wrong thing and trying to make you feel better through your grief. There are many more who say the right thing. And that's me just dealing with that type of grief. Again, we're not going to play the grief Olympics, but
grief is grief.
This was sudden for both you and Jessica, and for you twice. What, 10 years apart? And so to have somebody show up saying, I got you, at that most raw and vulnerable moment, probably of your entire life, I'm sure. And you're doing that. And you mentioned something an episode or two ago about, I think it was last episode, where you were saying how, you showed up for something like this and you were crying.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, here I am to show support, and I'm crying. And Jessica, I'm sitting here in the background, like you said, not on the podcast, screaming, good. And she said the same thing. Of course, Jessica, who's incredible. I'm sorry she's not here, but she said the exact thing that needed to be said. That's what you need is someone that shows up that isn't stoic and, with a clipboard and, trying to answer. I mean, to
here's what you need to do.
Human with them and having gone that experience with them. And so when you cry, or other people would come to me and they would cry, it kind of, it lowers that wall even more so you can be more vulnerable. And then that's where the connection comes in, and hopefully one little inkling towards healing on and not moving.
That is, it caught me by surprise, to tell you the truth, because I was supposed to be there as a guiding light to these people, and it was so raw that I all of a sudden, I'm welling up. This is going to happen.
Okay.
And it happened. I want to see something. I'm going to read this to you. If I could pull it up real quick, I have it right here. It was on Substack. We're talking about. I'm only on Instagram and Substack.
For blogs, it's fantastic. Yeah.
This woman who was a psychologist, I'm going to butcher her name, but it's Dr. Tara Cousinow, Cousineau. Listen to what
she. That link in the episode notes as well too. So send that.
I'll send you this quote.
Yeah.
Listen to this quote. After 30 years as a psychologist, I can tell you what actually heals people. It's not technique, not the evidence-based acronym, not the chatbot that never sleeps. Mm-hmm. It's presence. Mm-hmm. One nervous system meeting another. The gap between two humans where something shifts. No algorithm is coming for that.
That might be my favorite part of the day right there. That's magic. That's real.
Every now and then you read something like that and it knocks you right out of your chair.
Yeah. And hopefully inspires people to be that other nervous system to show up for someone else who needs it.
And that's it. It's the ministry of presence.
Yeah.
It's a nervous system meeting another nervous system, and no algorithms coming for that. I'm going to use that to close out all of my talks from now on. And I got to get a hold of this woman.
That's a nugget right there. And this podcast, A Tough Subject podcast, is loaded with nuggets to help, because I know I'm the benefactor of it. And so I found, listen, and I feel like I'm just an infant in the grief world, but there's some things that I have to decide upon, and there's no fast rule to it, but like I still wear my wedding ring with Amy, right? But I'm seriously considering like moving it to my right hand, and it just doesn't fit right now.
So it stays there, yeah.
But yeah, so that's where it stays. But the little things like that, and I just believe, for me, in my infancy. So take it for what it's worth. But what you said a minute ago too is I've had plenty of nervous systems around me, even though you and Jessica are through a camera and an online platform. We're still here together. And I have been blessed with the people at my radio station at Habersham Broadcasting. I've been blessed with listeners, more importantly with Amy's parents, her children, and my children. I mean, brought them up. They've been, to be a dad, I always kind of want to be that dad that it's okay to feel. I've hopefully modeled that for my boys, but I also, as their dad, I want to be, strong, and they showed up. Oh man, they're both very different, but they showed up and took care of their dad in the way they played to their strengths. One took care of business for me, like all the little minutia things, picking things up, do this for me, go grab these photos, pick out these clothes, do this. And then my other son, who's very much, he was there for me. And they were both there. So those nervous systems were nearby. So I'm the benefactor of all of that. And I have to say, I feel a heck of a lot better this July 30th than I did last July 30th. And I think it's because I dove headfirst into it. I didn't run from it. I memorialize her. I think about her. I listen to the songs. I look at the photos. I look at the videos. I planted the trees. I went back and visited the old haunts. I saw her children. And mostly, I just feel like I just dove in. And it hurts, right? It hurts.
Yeah, you did the work. You did the heavy lifting.
It hurts to look at the photos of what will never be again. It hurts to, but feel the pain. It's no pain, no gain. but that, for me, I have a lot of gain having, run through the pain.
And don't waste the pain.
I have. Yeah. And it's not going to be the same for everybody. That's helped me. Maybe it'll help someone else. I hope. Hey, talk to me in a year. I might be a basket case, but I don't think so.
Well, it goes, back to that linear model. It goes all over the board. You never know. Hourly changes, by the minute.
Well, speaking of hourly, this podcast is like an hour long already, and it's supposed to be 30 minutes. And I'll never shut up, so maybe I'll just shut up.
You got a radio guy on the podcast. I could be over here smoking a cigarette, doing like the Wordle. What else, Tim?
Tim out. I've spoken about this ad nauseum, but I want to thank everybody for the comments we got on YouTube and on this particular podcast we had last time. From strangers, but we're not. Even though we're connected through the digital world, we're still connected. And I think it's possible to walk hand in hand with grief and gratitude. And instead of moving on, we're healing on.
Healing on. And that's the name of that episode. It's got to be. It's a tough subject. I'm Dennis Gillan. That's our producer, Tim Cicciarelli, on behalf of Jessica Seal, who could not make it today. Folks, thanks for listening. Go back. We have 49 other episodes in the queue. You got to commute. Most of them are half hour, but when Tim gets on the line, it's an hour. But that happens.
People
got a lot to say.
Are like, yeah, that checks out.
That checks out. You got a radio guy on. It's we'll go 2 hours if we get a politician.
People do that, please.
No, we're not doing that. We don't want more grief. So we want to cut the grief in half. You remember the name of our foundation. A shared joy is a double joy. A shared sorrow is half a sorrow. You go to halfasorrow.org and check us out. But if you could help out and support the podcast, great. Tell people about us. Send them a link to us. Any way, shape, or form that you could help us financially. But I think the best way you could help us too is word of mouth. Let people know that we exist. It's a tough subject on all your streaming platforms. I'm Dennis Gillan. That's Tim Cicciarelli. Peace out.